Big tech, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for big tech over the past few years. Are you bullish?
So bullish on a long-term basis, yes, but it's really a case-by-case basis based upon the stocks. So if I look at something like an Apple, it's definitely trading rather rich compared to its historical valuation. So that one upside for, let's say, the next few years might be a little limited in terms of that one. Microsoft's been executing on just such a high level. If they continue to execute the way they've been executing, I think that one still has some more upside, but I would say upside somewhat limited in that one. I think Tesla has massive upside this next 3 to 5 years, based upon what I see their growth rates going to and kind of the current valuation. So I think Tesla has massive upside this next few years. I think Meta has massive upside this next few years. I mean, that company's trading at a forward P in the 20s is no reason that a company like that has that sort of growth should be trading at the current valuation. Like, it should be trading far, far exceeding where it's at right now. And I think the real profitability for Meta will be seen in the next few quarters, and people are going to really open their eyes like, oh my gosh, like Q1, that's child's play from what you'll see the rest of the year. So I think massive upside in that one. Amazon in 2024 and over the next few years, I think has massive upside. I think this is just kind of that hiccup year for the company. Google, I think, is in a tough place. Google's in a tough place because they got regulators on their back. So you got government agencies on their back left and right. Meta already went through that stage. Google's just really going through that stage now. So that's going to be something that holds the company back. YouTube is, always going to be there and successful, but they obviously have a lot of competitive threats that have come in recently, and especially in regards to people's time and attention. And a lot of people, Facebook and Instagram are actually major competitive threats for YouTube. People got to understand, it's for companies like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, TV, all this stuff, Netflix, time. Time is whoever's getting the most time on the platforms, the winners. And so with obviously TikTok in the short form videos taking off so much and being so successful, and then Instagram adopting that, and now Instagram Reels is becoming so successful, and then a lot of people are using that same technology on Facebook as well, could mean less time spent on YouTube, right? So I think YouTube's in an interesting time period that they just have a lot of competition right now, and more competition than they probably ever had. Google continues to be obviously dominant, but if ChatGPT and other, let's call it other large language models can continue to put the pressure on something like a Google and are ever seen as better than Google, that could be something that hurts Google over the next 5-10 years. It's not going to devastate their business tomorrow, but it could slowly start to eat them, from kind of inside out over the next many years. Android continues to just kind of do what Android does. It's going to continue to be solid. If we ever change off the smartphone platform, which it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon, but if that ever does happen, then that could be a competitive threat to Android, right? But the good news was with Google, the valuation's in a much lower place right now. So in terms of big tech, it's really a case-by-case basis. I can't just say all of them are going to go up a ton or all of them are going to go down a ton. I think a few have their work cut out for themselves over the next few years, and I think a few are going to be smooth sailing for the next few years. And it might not be the same companies that have been doing so well over the past few years. Amazon, for instance, I don't think a lot of people know this. Amazon stock hasn't really gone anywhere for 5 years now. 5 years. And the reason being is Amazon got very overvalued. I even made a video almost 5 years ago now on Netflix and Amazon being extremely overvalued. And I basically went into the numbers. And Amazon was way overvalued 5 years ago. Now it's way undervalued. They played catch up with their growth. And so tremendous opportunity in that one.
Yeah. So you cherry picked around a few of the big tech stocks there. Do you think, though, across the board, we could see an earnings explosion because we've seen so many cuts, and we've also seen management flick the switch from being, over exuberant on different projects or hiring to now pulling back and making savings?
Yeah, there's a few components at play here the stock market is a game of odds and probabilities. And there's no such thing as it's a for sure this way or that way. It's always a game of odds and probabilities, right? So I think about a few things. I think about the cost cuts many of these companies have going through right now that are really going to start to help them immensely in the second quarter and especially third quarter, fourth quarter for their earnings, where we could actually see many of these companies report, let's call it net incomes and potentially even operating incomes that are rising at a substantially greater rate than we've seen in for those companies in honestly years and years and years. So I think that's something that's at play. And I think we'll see that with companies like Meta. I think we'll see that with companies like Amazon and a few others. But the other component I think people don't think about enough is we've had real wages go down, I believe, for 24 straight months. Okay. Obviously, US consumer has been hurt immensely. European consumer has probably been hurt even worse. What if, hypothetically, just hypothetically, that trend starts to reverse? And let's say we had 24 months of real wages growing. What does that mean for the overall economy, right? Because I can tell you, if you've had 24 months of real wages going down, that's obviously hurt the economy substantially. It's hurt the consumer. And we've held up decent. If all of a sudden you're talking about real wages actually started to go up and the consumer actually felt better and did better, remember, consumer confidence hit the lowest level we've ever seen in history in 2022. The Michigan consumer confidence, we've never seen it hit, even in the great financial crisis, even during Rona, even during the 70s and 80s with that super high inflation. We've never seen consumer confidence get that low. So if we could be in a situation where, let's say, unemployment stays in the 3s or low 4s, and we see real wages start to go up in a nice fashion over this next 1 to 2 years, you could actually see a kind of an upward massive move, and that would just make this market even a more hated market, because this has been one of the most hated stock markets I've seen. You look at this market the last 6 months, it's so hated. People are so mad it's going up. And the reason being is, unfortunately, a lot of retail investors got sucked into bearish strategies and going all short the market, buying put options. I saw a lot of that, especially in the back half of 2022. Everybody was getting sliced and diced, so they went from longs to then short positions, because they're like, oh, these are the people making the money, so I need to switch over here. And now those people have almost lost their entire portfolio. So there's a lot of jaded people on that side. There's a lot of people that also weren't buying in the back half of 2022 when you had companies, they're the greatest companies in the world, trading at 50%, 60%, 70%, 80% discounts. People chose not to buy for whatever their reason was at that time. Oh, it's not down enough. It's only down 65%. It's like, these are the greatest companies in the world. Like, how much do you really want it down? And so those people are extremely jaded right now, because they're looking and they're watching these stocks go up and up and up. Imagine passing on Meta at $90 and then seeing it at 200 something, and be like, I want it back for 90. And it's just like, it's not going back to 90, I hate to tell you. And so I think there's just a lot of that going on. So yeah, if we saw a continued kind of move up here, but in terms of the odds and probabilities, I think it's very probable that many of the big techs, not all of them, but many of them, specifically I'm thinking about Meta, specifically I'm thinking about Amazon, are going to report a blast higher in earnings per share and net income over this next few quarters. That's going to be shocking. I mean, completely shocking to a lot of folks that they never saw coming. And I think that's something that's a factor at play that people have to be ready for.
I think something else which has been absolutely amazing to see unfold is the fact, if you went back 12 months ago, 6 months ago, most people, you and I, would probably have agreed that Google had a monopoly on search. And now, in such a small amount of time, ChatGPT has kind of dismantled that potential monopoly. Do you think Google's in a lot of trouble? And also, listening to their recent earnings call, it wasn't even mentioned once. And I just thought, how has this not been mentioned? This is a massive risk for the company.
It is certainly a risk for the company. I mean, my thoughts on that is, I do think people are getting a little too excited about ChatGPT in terms of a competitive threat to Google at this stage we're on right now. I think ChatGPT is being very successful with a lot of people that are super into technology and super into kind of cutting edge technology and things like that, right? But you got to remember, like, the masses is what you really need to use your product. And can I say the masses are going to use ChatGPT over Google? I don't see that. Even so, somebody like myself, like, what am I still using on a daily basis several times per day? It's still Google. Could that change over the next 5 years? I'm sure it's definitely a potential, right? But we gotta not get too excited about these things before they come to fruition, right? And I think it's easy to kind of run to those conclusions. And this happens many times. There was something interesting I shared recently. And this was a 2015, something I saw on Twitter, 2015 article that said GM's Volt or whatever they called it was going to be the Tesla killer. This was in 2015. Obviously, it wasn't the Tesla killer, right? The amount of times I saw iPhone killer back in the day, people have finally stopped using that term of the Apple killer, the iPhone killer over the last few years. But if you go back to like 2012, 2011, 2013, 2014, every new phone was the iPhone killer. So people tend to see a new technology and think it's the end of the established one, when many times it's not, right? So I think it is a competitive threat. I think Google has to take it serious, and I think they probably are taking it serious. But I'm not going to get too excited to say, oh, Google's done because this ChatGPT could take them out. We'll see how all that plays out over time. It's a long game, and I'm sure Google's very, very focused. From my understanding, a few months ago, they even called in the founders, with Sergey and the other gentleman, to come help and kind of figure out what's the best course of action. How do we respond to this? I also believe they've handled it very poorly on the PR side with Google. I think they could have probably, I don't want to say nipped this in the bud, but I think they could have probably handled it better than the way they've handled it. I think they've handled it very poor on the PR side, and it's made them look either incompetent or not taking it serious, like you even kind of mentioned there. And I think they could have done a lot better job in terms of that.